Hi, Section 3, Session 11. So we're going to just go into a little bit more detail about a clinic, your clinic, and further hygiene resources for your clinic. So there's a well-recommended book, source of information, which is specific to assisting public health practitioners in the prevention and control of infectious diseases, and it's called the Blue Book, which gives an A to Z coverage of 84 infectious diseases, plus protocols for dealing with infectious wastes, modes of transmission, etc. So you can get that free as a download from the Victorian Government Health Information website, available at that website that's listed there. So a good idea to get hold of that. Let's have a look at what else you can get that's free. Always like free things. Hand washing posters. Good to have a hand washing poster up in your clinic, because then all people who are involved in your clinic will know that it's a good practice to engage in, to hand wash, make sure that at every available opportunity. Your staff might very well come in contact with infectious patients in the process of their role or their job. They need to know to hand wash. So you can get these free hand washing posters. Very good. Here's the first one: www.hha.org.au/for-healthcare-workers.aspx, and the Canadian British Columbia Ministry of Health has a poster specific to hand clearing or to cleaning hands with a waterless hand sanitizer at that website that's listed there. Let's have a look next at universal precautions. What are universal precautions? Well, they're defined by the Northern Territory Centre for Disease Control, CDC, as a set of precautions designed to prevent transmission of HIV, hepatitis V, HBV, known as, and other blood-borne pathogens when providing first aid or health care. So universal precautions apply to fluids such as blood, other body fluids containing visible blood, semen, and vaginal secretions. Also tissues, and to the following fluids: cerebrospinal, synovial, pleural, peritoneal, pericardial, and amniotic fluids. So but the universal precautions do not apply to feces, nasal secretions, sputum, tears, saliva, urine, and vomitus, unless they contain visible blood. So what do universal precautions mean, and what relevance can they have to a natural medicine practice? Well, under normal circumstances, natural medicine practitioners do not come in contact with the client's blood, body fluids, or body substances such as urine, feces, or vomits, except in the cases of perhaps an acupuncturist may find that there's a prick of blood left after they've taken the needle out, they've hit a capillary, in which case, as I said before, and I will say again and again, always make sure that you have a swab, an alcohol swab, which actually kills pathogens on contact. However, in rare circumstances, an accident may occur in a natural medicine clinic where such contact might be possible. And the best recommendation is to make universal precautions a part of your professional practice. So the answer to this is what's known as PPE, which is personal protective equipment. So what is it? What is it? Just exactly what is it? Well, it's any clothing, equipment, or substance designed to protect a person from risks of injury or illness. So for natural medicine practitioners, it can include gowns, okay, sterile and non-sterile gloves, including heavy-duty gloves. It could include eyewear, plastic aprons, overalls, enclosed footwear, an absolute must for any clinic, and perhaps masks. So have a little look at the website down there, and that'll give you a good indication of personal protective equipment. It can include swabs as well. So if there is a spill, what would we do in the event of a spill? Well, clean up procedures using universal precautions. We would wear single-use disposable gloves. We would use a 10% bleach solution to clean up spills. Okay, 10% bleach solution ensures that pathogens are knocked out. Soiled linen is double bagged and labelled. You would wash the work surface and air dry it, so leave it out in the air to dry, or if you've got a hairdryer, let it dry. Who has a hairdryer at hand in the natural medicine clinic? But get it out into the air to dry. Skin contamination, wash with soap and water and an antiviral solution. And for open wound contamination, flush with an antiseptic solution. Okay, so have a look at an activity. So with your tutor, split into groups and develop a policy and procedures for infectious diseases control. Now you've worked with, you've remember way back a few lectures ago, we looked at how to write up a policy, what you and your best practice would want and like for your clients and for your practice, and then you follow that up with procedures to ensure that your best practice policy is put into effect. So do that with regard to infectious diseases control. Share it with the class, and then select one of the people in your group to act as a scribe and to write up a mutually agreed policy and procedure which is contributed to by everyone. Okay, something to a little activity to assist you to get to understand a little bit more about infectious control and making sure that your clinic is always safe. We're going to now go on to safety, fire safety, fire hazards, and how can we avoid, how can we keep our premises safe? Because a fire is disastrous, can be disastrous. It can wipe out everything. Fires, they take no prisoners. So including people, including equipment, and including your premises. So fire prevention for your premise is essential. So important that you observe the following. Provide a non-smoking environment. You don't want people smoking inside your clinic nor outside the clinic. You sometimes see different places where there's people are obviously not allowed to smoke inside and they stand outside smoking. Discourage that. Put a little sign up. No smoking here either, or no smoking here. Please check all electrical cords and equipment to ensure that they're in good condition. You don't want an electrical fire, which can happen quite readily if there's poor insulation on the cords. Do not plug Do not plug more than 2 cords into an electrical outlet. Ensure that power cords. Why? We'll just go back. Why? Because it can start an electrical fire. Overload the circuit, start an electrical fire. Ensure power cords are fully extended, not coiled. So fully extended, not coiled up like this. If they're coiled, somebody can trip over them. Never use candles, incense, or any open flame. That's an obvious one, isn't it? You don't use any open flame in a clinic. Because there's so much flammable material in a clinic that you would be foolish to do that. Ensure your premise, including treatment areas, are equipped with smoke detectors and a fire extinguisher which is regularly checked. Okay, so making sure that the monster of fire does not affect your clinic in any way. Preventing falls in a clinic. The health practitioner should observe the following rules. Well, a lot of these are very common sense, very much common sense, but make sure that you hear what's being said, because You don't know what sort of conditions will occur in your clinic. So you always provide good lighting. Never perform a treatment in a darkened room. You can trip, you can pull something down, or if your hapless client is required to get up off a darkened room and they're a little bit dizzy, or they're a little bit out of it, or they're a little bit very highly relaxed, it could be quite disastrous. Don't use throw rugs, and don't throw rugs around either. But don't use throw rugs because they can slip or tangle in the feet. So you always make sure that any of your floor coverings are wall to wall. Avoid slippery tile floors, and particularly if you're using things like massage oil. They can go down in an instant and can be very injurious because a fall like that could do a lot of damage. Keep floors and walkways uncluttered. You don't want people to be tripping over things. Keep electrical and phone cords out of traffic areas. A good idea is to keep them right along the walls and pin them down if necessary, or tape them down. Regularly check all equipment to ensure it's sturdy and in good repair, and make sure that all outsides also are free of clutter. So very important things, and sometimes you might not think of that because the notion of having a nice clean tile floor, it sounds good, but in practice could be disastrous. Let's have a look at creating a hazard-free environment. Well, for a start, infants and young children, never leave them unattended in the clinic. There's all sorts of things that they could potentially go wrong in that sort of service, in that set of circumstances. I beg your pardon. Poking fingers in electrical sockets, opening cupboards and stuff falling out on them, hazardous cleaning equipment, etc., in the cupboards, all sorts of things. A parent or guardian should always be present in the room for the massage of minors under 18 years, and that's a legal requirement. Women in the last trimester of pregnancy should not be left in the massage room alone and may need assistance getting on and off the table. It can be quite women in that stage of their pregnancy can be quite unsteady on their feet, so be very conscious of that. Elderly persons may be less steady on their feet and should not be left in the room unattended, and I suggest sometimes that they might even need a hand under the elbow, a door open for them to help them out. A client with a mobility impairment, including visual impairment, definitely will need that assistance. And persons with disabilities should be asked, what assistance do you need? And then, when they give their assistance, make sure that their instructions are completely covered and carefully followed. Okay, so let's identify some of the workplace hazards. What's legally required is that within the regulation, that within a workplace, safety issues are discussed. In fact, there are requirements written down in the workplace legislation that require meetings, workplace safe and healthy workplace health and safety meetings regularly to be held between employers and employees. So you get the conversation started with workplace consultation. That means talk to the employees. What do you see that could be a hazard around here? What needs to be tightened up? Is there anything that you can pick out? Many eyes make far better than one set of eyes. Write these down on a safety action plan, and then go through any injury records you have. And if you haven't kept injury records, then you need to start keeping them. For example, somebody's in the work, and there's a workbench and a kettle, a hot boiling kettle, gets knocked off the bench. sending boiling water everywhere. Write it down. It's not about blaming the person. It's not about saying, oh, you naughty, bad, awful person. It's about identifying a hazard. And once we've identified what do we know we can do, we can then make a risk assessment, and then you use risk control. So place that kettle somewhere else where it can't be knocked over. Just a small example, but so you write it down, and then you establish a written record of workplace injuries, and once you've got those injuries, once you've got that written down, you then have something to work for. You are then able to add that into your risk assessment process. That is, you judge the seriousness of each individual, each identified hazard, and you then take risk control measures. So a very important thing to do. Have a look, reference Victorian Work Cover Authority, available online at that website, and see also WorkSafe Australia. All right, we're now going to have a look at what happens, what the procedures that are set in place for workplace injuries are. If you become injured, if you're injured or become ill at work, by law, your employer is obliged to report injuries. So somebody carrying a box that's too big, full of stock, from one place to another, sustains a back injury, that needs to be reported. So what is an injury? It's a personal injury arising out of or in the course of employment, if the employment is a significant contributing factor to the injury. I just had a person come for treatment to me today, who got a whiplash injury driving in the car to work, and she's covered by work cover. So her treatments to come and see me, covered. So it's set in law. Injuries can be physical, they can be psychological, related to disease, for example, asbestosis, or an aggravation of a previous injury, or death related to an injury. And we talked a little bit about the workplace health and safety anomalies that allowed a few young electricians to be fried to death, literally, in the attics of houses where they were not properly informed as to the risks attached to stapling through an electrical wire. So all the wrong sorts of equipment and the wrong sorts of information was given. So what happened? They then were able to make a common law claim or a statutory claim, and as we remember, it went to court, and there were serious ramifications. So what happens? Well, there's workplace injury insurance, and there is legislation regarding workplace injury, and that's become streamlined across the states. So due to this streamlining process that took place in 2012, we have a broad legislative cover which allows movement through the states, but also ensures uniformity through the states. So check your state websites to find out what they can expect through statutes and common law. So what happens if you need to make a work cover claim? When a claim needs to be made for your work cover compensation, you check out your state legislation and see what it asks you to do and follow that to the letter. Look, work cover claims are written in very easily accessible language because they are designed to ensure that every level of society is covered. If you're working for a living, you should not be put in a position where you have a life-threatening or even a work-preventing injury. So no matter what status you are, an employer or an employee, then you need to be able to access this information, and it's written there in very plain English for you to. So you follow what your state legislation asks you to do. Claims under the new model legislation and regulations will look very similar now across the states in terms of information required. So what about if an employer doesn't accept liability for a workplace accident? What if, you're carrying the box, remember that box full of stock? We carried it from one bench to another. Oh, I had an injury. Well, and the employer says, no, that's not, that you didn't lift it properly. It can happen. In the event that an employer does not accept responsibility for a workplace accident or injury, the employer then may have the right to sue for damages for those injuries. If you've been injured at work and your work cover or similar claim is accepted, then you can expect that you'll be entitled to payment for the reasonable costs of medical and like expenses. In my case, the fee that this person paid will be compensated for by the work cover. So she's not out of pocket for those expenses. In the event that you may need time off work to recover from your injury, your agent will assess your entitlement to weekly payments also. So if you're off work and you haven't got income coming in and you've got a family to keep, you may be eligible to weekly payments. So it's a fair legislation, and it fairly covers all aspects of the working situation, from owners, manufacturers, owners, directors, through to workers, employers and employees, etc., right down the range. So what about returning to work then? Well, employers have a legal responsibility to help their injured workers return to work. So returning to work means helping them get back to work, because most workers work because they need to survive. They've got families to provide for, and most workers I beg your pardon, I can't say that, but not all workers are insured against injury at work. So this is where work cover comes in. Or it may mean helping injured workers stay at home while they recover from injury. Now, just to get that clear, what I just said a minute ago, I'm talking that there is private insurance available for such things. So not all workers have private insurance, but all workers are entitled to work cover. So it may be that the employer needs to change the occupation of a worker. So if they've normally been shifting and carrying stock around, doing very physical work, then it may be that whilst they're repairing their injury and while they're recovering from their injury, they might get a desk job. During the desk job, that's able to assist them to recover from their injury, but also to still feel useful and also to be paid. So, of course, that works for everybody, returning to work as quickly as possible. It works for the employer, it works for the works for the employer, works for the employee, and it keeps insurance premiums down because the insurance companies aren't liable for such huge payouts. So here's an activity. Pardon me. Excuse me. Your tutor will access the following website for you: www.safeworkaustralia.gov.au. Look for the WorkSafe fact sheet incident notification form. Make sure that you get the one with the A in the word notification. It's been left out there. Work your way through this and discuss what's relevant for your future practice. Okay, and now that signals the end of our lecture 11, session 11. So let's go through a few revision questions for you. All right, so which federal agency is it that produces national OH&S standards? What is the risk management model? It's all at the beginning of this PowerPoint. List 10 OHS healthcare clinic guidelines. For how long is a first aid qualification valid in your state? So do you have to get it every year? Do you have to get it every 2 years? Look it up. Identify some of the notifiable diseases in our society currently. That website that you accessed will tell you that. List 5 infection control measures. 5. Define universal precautions and list 2 fluids that universal precautions apply to. Define personal protective equipment, PPE, and list 2 examples of PPE. And identify the steps to create a hazard-free healthcare environment. Good luck with that. And remember, whatever you're doing now is going to help you with setting up your own practice. So thank you.